Welcome to the Faith and Fire Podcast, a podcast that's all about sharing God's wisdom, insight, revelation, hope, and love, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Ken Bishop. I am here with my friend, my brother, Charles Goady.
What's up, baby?
What are we doing? All of it. All of it.
Okay.
We're in a new space, man. This is a huge blessing. We out here at the Makers Gym, Frisco, Texas, getting it in. Shout out to Makers Gym.
Nice.
This is nice. We were in the house in the office.
Moved on up, baby.
We moved on up, but it's all good. So listen, we are so glad that you have joined in with us. Please like, subscribe, share, right? We want to get this content out, but also when you see the episode and you get a chance to view it, go into the comments, leave us a comment, leave us a note, let us know what you think, what your thoughts are, how you feeling about the subject matter, right? All right, so we're going to jump right in. We needed to wrap up episode 2.
Right.
Where we were discussing purpose and plans and things of that nature. And, pardon me, folks, I'm a note taker, right? So one of the things that I written down was we have to be about God's plans and not our plans. And that's something that you had said that really kind of threw me, right? We're usually about our plans.
Exactly.
And so I was like, okay, I got to get that down because that has to be reiterated, because we cannot expect to really move into that space that he wants us to be in if we are still focused on our plan. And so I just wanted to make sure that we, again, really hit that point. You are going to be blessed and highly favored of God because his plan for you is good. But you have to make sure you are following his plan. Your plan has to be his plan.
Right. Well, and again, from last episode, Jeremiah 29:11, right? So, for I know the plans that I have for you. So, God is saying, I know the plans that I have for you.
Right.
Plans for a hope and a future, right? So, he knows those plans. But do I know his plan? I know my plan, right? When I grew up, right, as a child, mom and dad said, what do you want to be? What you come up with a plan for your life, right? Which is good advice, right? Mm-hmm. But no one ever told me to consult God about what God wants me to do with my life, and no one ever said that, and so I came up with my own plan,
right?
And I did a good job of that, but I never consulted God. I never considered it.
Yeah.
And then my plan worked for a little while.
Yeah.
But then didn't work. And then I become frustrated. And then I feel like God has forsaken me.
Bruh, I've heard that a number of times. Why is God not? Because I thought he said he would give me the desires of my heart. If I pray, 2 or 3 are gathered, the whole 9, he'll give me the desires of my heart. Here's the crazy part. We have to make sure that the desires of our heart are the desires of his heart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, our desires have to be his desires in order for all of that to actually go down the way it's supposed to.
Right. So I've got desires in my heart, but those desires, the heart is exceedingly wicked.
Bruh.
So everything my heart desires is not of God, right?
Bruh, hit the button on him, Charles. That was a good word.
So everything that my heart desires is not of him, right?
Yeah.
And so I've got it. So I'm wanting him to give me desires, but I know this is a family show, so some of the things that I've wanted him to give me are completely out of line, completely out of pocket with what he has for me.
Left field, you feel me? So here's the thing, and see, people, this is why I love this man. I love talking to him because it does not matter the subject matter. It's always going to go from where we are to just a wonderful, beautiful space. So we're going to have to talk about the desires of our heart.
Okay.
Especially as it pertains to relationship, romantic relationship. We're going to have that conversation because I've come to understand that what we should be praying for is our design.
Okay.
Not our desire.
Okay. Come on, Campbell.
Listen to me.
Come on, Campbell.
You got to be praying for your design, because your desires will fail you. But the design that God has, that goes back to I know the plans. The plan is a design. Anyway, we ain't even going to go into that.
I can't wait to chop that up.
You know what I mean? Okay. CG, come on, give us a nice little wrap up on episode 2. Give us your final thoughts on it, and we're going to jump into our subject matter for today.
Really, if there was anything that I would want anyone to take away from episode 2, it's that, when we look at ourselves and versus the potential or versus what God has called us to do, we don't have to look at our own ability, right? We don't need to see ourselves the way that we are today, as broken, as flawed, as messed up as we are today. You look at yourself as future self, right? You begin to look at yourself the way that God sees you, right? And that you are perfected in your imperfection. You're perfected in Him, and look at yourself through that lens. When you don't have the faith to believe in yourself, right? Believe in Him, right? Because you know that He can do it,
exactly.
Right? But you don't know if you can, but you know that through Him, He's already planned for your stupidity, your stubbornness.
Man, that was another big one.
All those things are all based in His plan, right? And you don't have to be perfect. Nobody that did anything great ever was, right?
Exactly.
David was a womanizer. Well, it's a family show. Okay.
Yeah.
So David, and Moses had anger problems, and Noah was on that drink, and everybody struggled with something, and that's why we get highlighted these stories, right? Because if they can do it, you can do it, right? And if you can you can walk on water and then chop somebody's ear off, and then deny that you ever knew him, right? So,
and still you the rock, and upon this rock I will build my.
So I mean,
man,
this Christian walk, right? What God has called us to do has never been perfect. It is just to be authentically ourselves, right? To be real, and be humble, right?
Right.
And walk it out. So.
That's what's up. So listen, you got some dope nuggets. Hey, rewind and do all that so you could pick all that up, because there was some hotness right there, okay? So listen, you'll want to stay tuned until the end, right? Because there are going to be some amazing just droplets, I feel, fall from heaven of insight in this conversation, okay? So you're going to want to stay tuned until the end and see what God reveals in this episode of Faith and Fire, all right? That's what I'm talking about. All right. So check this out, man. We gonna have to dive in.
All right.
Family, listen. I was talking to my brother on the phone, and I was just like, man, look, we got some things we got to do, podcasting and advertising and all of that. You're going to get a shout out about that or some information about that. CG, that's the business, man. He going to hit y'all with that a little bit later. However, we were just chatting, and all of a sudden we started talking about instructions.
Right.
And the fact that we come with instructions.
We do.
And the people that deal with us need to know the instructions.
Absolutely.
So, this episode is about the issue of misuse. The issue of misuse. And we have to be careful. We have to be very, very careful when we are in any type of relational space in how we are being handled. But one thing that you pointed out while we were talking was that you have this instruction manual that tells people how you deal with, manage, utilize Charles. And if you've given that to them and you're still misused, there's a problem.
Right.
There's a problem. So we got to unpack. I'd like to unpack just some different narratives and perspectives within that subject matter, because dude, as we were conversating over this, it just kept exploding into more and more and more, and I knew it was going to be big. So come on, man, give it to me.
All right, so when we talk about misuse, and we talk about the instructions that we all have, so an analogy that I like is you wouldn't give a 16-year-old a Lamborghini.
Man.
I mean, while a 16-year-old wants one, right?
Right.
But if he wrapped it around a tree,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Is it the 16-year-old's fault or is it the parents' fault, right? Because is he mature enough to handle right the power that he's been given? If I were to learn how to shoot a handgun, right, I probably don't start with a Desert Eagle. You know what I'm saying? I probably start with something a little bit, you know, and so not that there's nothing wrong with a Desert Eagle, right? You know what I'm saying? But what it is I gotta work up to that, right? I've got to get my skills, and so I'm into photography, and so what I've learned in that is I'm good with my camera. Right. And I can take some amazing pictures with my camera. But even, just if someone gives me their camera and says, well, hey, take some pictures. I mean, I use Nikon. They use Canon. I don't know how to work that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right. But I don't know how to work it. Yeah. And so just like with the car, with the gun, with the camera, I can hurt especially with the car and the gun, right? I can hurt myself, right? Easier than actually will cause more damage to the thing itself, but I can misuse the camera, right? My pictures don't come out right. Maybe if I'm trying to get it to do something, I could damage the camera, and so because I don't know, it's out of ignorance that I don't know how to work something. I end up damaging it, or I could damage myself. Yeah. Then what we tend to do, especially when it comes to relationships, right? Yeah. Is I'm gonna say, well, they were just I'm not gonna take responsibility. Well, maybe you didn't know how to handle that person, how to work with that person.
And so relationships can end up being misuse, like you mentioned, that if you give that 16-year-old a Lambo or a Porsche or what have you, the aftermath that could take place, is it their fault? So let's bring that into our spaces, right? So whether it's a work relationship, right, a relationship at home, relationship with a friend, a brother, a lover, or church, you have the potential of being misused if you do not explicitly and bravely express how to handle you. But here's the kicker. Your instruction manual is not complete. There's space in there. There's an appendix, and there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages at the end of that manual that are blank. Because you are going to grow. Right. You are going to adjust. You are going to change. Here's one thing that came to mind earlier today, Charles. Not only are you going to grow and you're going to change, you're going to evolve, but you may find out through some rigorous use, you have a new use case, right? You may have been used, if a scale from 1 to 10, you've been pushed to 6. Okay. Nobody's ever pushed you to 10. Right. And then finally you find yourself in a relationship, again, regardless of where at in that gamut, work, church, wherever, and somebody pushes you to 10. Right. And then because there is a mutual understanding, right? There's this relationship is happening in a very reciprocal way. Like it's good, right? It's good. Then you kind of get nudged over into 11 and maybe 11 and a half, maybe 12. But what you start to identify is there are new use cases that can be added as bullet points to your manual. And I think that's what God does to us. He will he will expand us, right, into a space that provides us an opportunity to be used in new use cases.
Yeah, and I think, as you go, and I think work and church are some of those areas where we really get pushed.
Yeah.
And we can see it more.
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen in relationships as well. And so, I think about work opportunities. Man, I don't see how I'll be able to accomplish that or how I'll be able to knock that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the project and you get through it and you look back and you're like, wow, I did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I would ever be associate pastor,
Right?
Like,
Right.
like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and then not only was it to you will preach in front of the people,
Man.
like in front of the real people,
Yeah.
live people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but
they
now-
can look at you.
Right. Right. And they talk back or sleep. either one
Man,
and
hold
both.
on. Okay.
But to go through that, right, and then to go on a regular basis, right? And so now, right, where that was, to your point, that was a 10, a 9.5, and a 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up this Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, and I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but
Yeah.
it's not a 9 or a 10, right? Because I've grown,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm up to 12 or 13.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
10 is no longer my stretch limit. My stretch limit is now 13, 14, whatever.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
you know.
And all that happens over time. And so one of the things that we were chatting about again is, and what's crazy, y'all, this is not like we weren't on the phone very long. It maybe 15, 20 minutes, and all of this just came like flooding in. Like it's absolutely amazing. But anyway, so one of the things that you had mentioned was kind of understanding that we have to still, utilize or be utilized so that we're not misused, so that we do not cause any damage, so that we do not end up ruining the tool, ruining ourselves, or allowing someone to ruin us. But here's the thing that tends to happen. Sometimes, we're talking about that new use case, right?
Right.
Sometimes people think they see capacity.
Okay.
They see a capacity past the capacity that you currently are at, or that you've peaked at before, because they think you have the capability. So just because I have the capability doesn't mean I have the capacity.
Correct.
Right? I can do, but that don't mean I got the bandwidth to do.
Right.
Especially in a workspace, right? In a workspace, that's been an issue before, right? And that is a place where you can end up being misused.
But in work, that's what we do all the time. The best workers get more work because you've shown, right, to be, I know if I'm as an employer, I'm looking at 2 employees. I got one person that halfway does their projects, and I got another person that's going to do it with a level of excellence. Who do I want to give it to? Because they have the capability. Now, do they have the capacity? Because I'm always giving them,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
The
task.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part. It here's what's really awesome about how our conversations work and the subject matter that God gives us. There's a flip side to that. And there's a flip side to just about everything, really, when we start to unpack it. But I think the flip side is us misusing ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I can't do this. I there's no way I could do this. Why? When's the last time you read your own instruction manual? When's the last time you looked through there to see on the last page that actually got some writing that you actually can do these things?
Well, but here's where we really mess up when we misuse ourselves. When there's something that we want and we try to do something that we're not meant to do, we're not comfortable doing it, we're not really built to do that, right?
That part.
And the part that I think about that comes to my mind, right, is in relationships, right? And so but she's so fine. You know what I'm saying? Oh, she's so sweet. And ooh wee, you know, and I know that she says she don't really want a relationship right now.
Right,
she just
right.
want to, you know, I know I do want a relationship, but you know what I'm saying? But I'm going to still be your friend, and I'm going to still, and maybe, and so I'm doing some things, you know what I'm saying? To try to, that I'm not really comfortable doing. I'm putting myself out here because I really want this, and I'm mishandling and misusing myself
and her. But listen, hey, bro, listen. Oh my gosh, Charles, why you do it to me, Doc?
I'm just
listen. That's like
That's what I learned the hard way,
bruh. So what you're essentially doing, you know, the chisels, right? You know what I mean, like that the old school for the rock. Okay. So you are taking a jackhammer and trying to dumb it down to be utilized for fine-tuned chiseling. You're taking you would be taking yourself from a space of ultimate operating and full-on use, and you're taking away some of the aspects of who you are so that you would fit how they would be able to use you.
Well, and I'm a big guy, right?
Yeah. You ain't no big dude, man.
You know how many times I've tried to fit into the box and the spaces that people want me to fit into? And obviously that's not physically, that's emotionally and mentally, right? To fit in to be a, compartmentalize myself to be what that's misusing
that is definitely
myself.
Yes, and allowing them to do it.
Because
you don't have to.
Sometimes we actually encourage it.
Ooh, why you hit the button on them, Charles? Woo!
Sometimes I've actually encouraged it.
Man.
What's that song? If it feels this good to be used, don't use me up.
You can keep on using me to use me up. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I ain't even gonna go there. Hey, listen. All right. Okay, so here's what I really love. Philippians 2:13, right? For it is God who works in you both to will and work for his good pleasure. So in our use,
I like that.
We got to keep Philippians 2 in mind.
Give it to me again.
Philippians 2, for it is God, 2:13, this is out of the ESV, for it is God who works in you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. If we had this as the major header for every page of our instruction manual, we would not misuse ourselves, and we wouldn't allow anybody else to misuse ourselves, because the use case for us is for God's good pleasure.
Right.
That's kind of how that's the hard stop, like for real, you know?
It is. It should be. Let's say that. Let's say
it should be.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be.
But when I'm not seeking him first, right? Matthew 6:33, and I'm seeking the relationship first, right? And I'm seeking the career first, right? And I'm singing, "My man, use me till you use me up." I really want to. I've made myself available to be used, not for God's pleasure.
Man.
And I know it's a family show, so that's all I'm gonna say.
We may have to. We may have to do a different version. Not necessarily unedited, but
uncut.
You know what I'm talking about? A little. Yeah, man. Wow. Follow the show on social media. Share this episode, right? Subscribe, leave a comment. Like, we want to hear from you. This is amazing subject matter, and we want to hear your thoughts about it, because we're going to have to do a part 2 yet again. We're going to have to cover this again.
I can't believe we're out of time already.
We're going to have to hit this again,
fun,
episode
bro.
4. It really is fun. Listen, let me leave this with you all. Here is the hope, right? And we're going to pick it back up, but I want to leave this with y'all. You don't have to settle for being misused, because 1 Peter 2:9, this is out of the ESV. It says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession," right? "That you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of the darkness into the marvelous light." You are so dope in God. You do not have to misuse yourself or allow anybody else to misuse you. What you think?
That's what's up.
Man, listen.
That's what's up.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to Faith and Fire podcast. We appreciate you. Man, listen.
Faith and Fire.
Thank you, Charles Goady.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, man. Listen, this has been amazing. You all be blessed, and we will see you in episode 4, where we will continue to unpack the issue of misuse.